Let's see the concept of dragon seeds in House of Dragons explained in detail here. Dragon seeds is a term to describe the bastards of Valyrian descent who are fathered in the islands in the Blackwater Bay, including Dragonstone and Driftmark. They are sometimes also called seeds for short. Let's break it down in simple and what is the role of dragon seeds in Dance of Dragons in House of Dragons Season 2. We are fastly approaching one of the most anticipated storylines of the second season, that of course being the dragon seeds, and today we're going to take a look at exactly what the origins of the dragon seeds are and what role they could potentially be playing on House of the Dragon. The name dragon seed is a term that has been given to bastards in Westeros of Valyrian descent who are usually fathered in the islands of Blackwater Bay, including Dragonstone and Driftmark, and there certainly has been no shortage of dragon seeds or people claiming to be dragon seeds ever since the days of Aegon the Conqueror. Fast-forwarding decades later to the Dance of the Dragons, the conflict that House of the Dragon is based on the dragon seeds would become more valuable than ever. After the devastating battle above Rook's Rest and the loss of Rhaenys and Meleys, one of the most experienced duos of dragon and dragon riders on Team Black's Rhaenyra would find herself in need of more dragon riders. They had a great deal of unclaimed dragons living on Dragonstone at the time, like Vermithor, Silverwing, and a great deal of wild dragons who had never been claimed yet. Without riders, these dragons were essentially useless, which would eventually lead Rhaenyra and Jacaerys to come up with the idea to potentially fill some of these unclaimed mounts with dragon seeds, in hopes of bolstering their forces against the Greens to combat the might of Vhagar, which led Rhaenyra and Jace to offer lands and titles to any of the dragon seeds who managed to tame an unclaimed dragon, which would go on to become one of the bloodiest events during the Dance of the Dragons. An event that would become known as the Red Sowing or the Sowing of the Seeds, which would go on to kill scores of wood dragon riders while burning and maiming twice as many. Yet after a great deal of carnage, for dragons would go on to bend their necks to dragon seeds and would become enlisted in Rhaenyra's fight against the Greens, and so far on House of the Dragon 3 of these characters have already been introduced, starting with Addam of Hull, who would go on to claim the dragon Seasmoke. Seasmoke, of course, was the mount of Laenor Velaryon in Season 1, who famously faked his death at the end of the season and escaped across the Narrow Sea, and while the show hasn't exactly confirmed what his fate was, it does look like Addam of Hull will be claiming his dragon this season. And this is one of the dragon seeds I was most looking forward to seeing in Season 2, especially considering the big problem that arose at the end of Season 1 by them not killing off Laenor Velaryon in Fire and Blood. The dragon Laenor Velaryon is set up very plainly by George R. Martin, only one rider per dragon at a time, so technically as long as Laenor is still alive nobody should be able to claim his dragon Seasmoke. Although we did get that quick throwaway line in episode 2 of restating that the dragon Seasmoke has become restless as of late, which led many fans to believe that Laenor did indeed die across the Narrow Sea, although it wasn't exactly the confirmation that I think a lot of us were hoping for. But it looks like Addam of Hull will be claiming Seasmoke regardless, who we have seen in Season 2 already, along with his brother Alan of Hull, both of which seemingly were confirmed to be the bastard sons of Corlys Velaryon, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how Addam of Hull and Seasmoke eventually meet. We have the dragon Vermithor, the second largest dragon alive during the Dance of the Dragons, which would go on to bend his neck to a dragon seed called Hugh the Hammer, who has been introduced on Season 2 and is played by the phenomenal actor Kieran Boo on House of the Dragon. Hugh Hammer is a blacksmith living in King's Landing during a time when the city is on the brink of madness. I'm really enjoying the extra backstory that they are giving to Hugh Hammer, which is something that we don't learn a whole lot about in Fire and Blood. But here on the show he is married with a sick child, and we see him in the latest episode trying to escape the city of King's Landing before it falls into utter madness, with the gates unfortunately being closed just as they reach them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Hugh makes his way all the way from King's Landing to Dragonstone and ends up claiming the dragon Vermithor, which of course was the massive dragon that Daemon was singing to in High Valyrian at the end of Season 1. Next we have a character named Ulf the White, or Ulf the Saw as he is commonly referred to, as he is very fond of drink in Fire and Blood, who we have already seen introduced on House of the Dragon as well, and while we don't know a whole lot about his backstory yet, he does claim to be the bastard brother of Daemon Targaryen. Ulf the White would eventually go on to claim the dragon Silverwing, which was the mount of the good Queen Alysanne, the dragon who famously refused to cross north of the Wall when Queen Alysanne visited the Night's Watch, which we hear Cryan Stark referring to in episode 1. My father brought King Jaehaerys and Queen Alysanne to see the Wall. His Grace stood at this very outlook and watched their dragons refuse to cross it. Silverwing, of course, is one of the new dragons that we have not yet seen on the series, so I'm really looking forward to getting our first glimpse of this magnificent dragon, which is said to be one of the bigger dragons in the Dragon Mount. But last and certainly not least, probably the most popular dragon seeds of them all, and the one character that has yet to be introduced on House of the Dragon. We have Nettles, who in Fire and Blood goes on to claim the wild dragon Sheepstealer along with Silverwing, Vermithor, Seasmoke and the rest of the mounted dragons that reside within the Dragon Mount. There are also 3 wild dragons who have never been claimed by riders: Sheepstealer, Grey Ghost, and the formidable Cannibal. By the time the Dragon Sea storyline takes place, Great Ghost was nowhere to be found as the dragon was notoriously elusive. Cannibal, on the other hand, was the one dragon that no one even attempted to claim due to the ferocious reputation that it has garnered. Cannibal was well known for being the biggest and most ferocious of all of the wild dragons, who would commonly feed on other dragons and dragon eggs, hence earning the name the Cannibal. During the sowing, Sheepstealer would go on to kill more dragon seeds than any other dragon during the event. But Nettles would start to have a different approach. After bringing the dragon a freshly killed sheep every day, the dragon quickly became accustomed to Nettle presence and even came to expect it, which would go on to create a very unique bond between Nettles and Sheepstealer, eventually allowing her to claim the dragon. But as of this point, the character of Nettles has yet to be introduced on House of the Dragon. There are rumors saying that she might not be introduced at all, with some reports even stating that Rhaena, the other daughter of Daemon, who is in the Vale presently, will actually be the one to claim Sheepstealer on the show. So I guess we'll have to wait and see just how these events play out over the final 3 episodes.